Welcome back to my channel. It's great to have everyone back again. In this video, what we'll be doing is creating a Union Jack flag in Inkscape. Now, just because I'm creating a Union Jack flag here, don't let that make you think that I'm super patriotic or anything like this. I just want to do the Union Jack flag because I think it's a beautiful graphic design which is so well known, and it's a lot of fun to create in Inkscape, and doing it in Inkscape helps us to practice the basic skills for using the functions in Inkscape, and so I think we can benefit a bit from doing so. Another really good thing about this exercise, though, is because it's Inkscape, it's a vector image which can be made as big as you like or printed as big as you like without any pixelization. Even though in Inkscape we'll set the size to 300 by 150 millimeters, the reality is you can make it the size of an actual flag or big enough to hang on a building. You can print it on a parachute even. I don't know if any of you have seen the James Bond film. I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me, and it was the introductory sequence which takes place before the opening titles, in which, if I remember rightly, it's Roger Moore playing the part of James Bond, and he's skiing, being chased by some baddies, and he jumps over a cliff or something, and he releases this big parachute that's one huge Union Jack. I've no idea how parachutes are printed, but I'm sure that having the graphic in vector format would be a massive benefit, simply because they can be made as big as you like without any loss of quality. And also, because the default file format for Inkscape is the SVG, the Scalable Vector Graphics format, which is recognized by any web browser, you can open the graphic in a web browser, reference it from inside HTML just like a JPEG or a PNG, but unlike a JPEG or a PNG, you can scale the image to as big as you like without any increase in file size or download time. And finally, anyone can do this exercise because Inkscape is completely free. You just download it from inkscape.org, install it on your computer, and in minutes you can be creating amazing graphics at absolutely no cost. You don't even need the Windows operating system to run it. It will run on the Linux free open source operating system on a computer that's 10 years old. But anyway, enough of my little rave. So, let's get started. So to begin with, what we need to do is we need to learn a little bit about how the Union Jack flag is designed. So we're going to go to the Oracle of all knowledge, which is Wikipedia, and we're just going to type in Union Jack. Union Jack, there we go. There we go. And so, Union Jack. And this page is really good. It gives us a little bit of knowledge about the history of the Union Jack flag. It's actually a combination of several different flags. This little animated GIF here shows you that it's a combination of the St. Patrick's flag. Sorry, wait a second, wait for this little GIF to start over again, and then we can explain it. Yeah, so it's a combination of the St. George's Cross of England, the St. Andrew's Cross of Scotland, and there we have the St. Andrew's Cross and St. George's Cross combined. And then there's the St. Patrick's Cross of Ireland, which forms that background diagonal cross to it as well. So that's how the Union Jack was formed. And it can be done in two dimensions, either I think it's a 3x5 dimension, or more commonly a 1x2 dimension. And it's the 1x2 dimension that we'll be creating today. So what we need to do now is we just need to go to this section which tells us a little bit about how the flag is actually designed. So if we click on this graphic here, we can see that the flag is based on a grid layout, essentially, and there's no element which is thinner than 1 unit of this grid. And so the grid measures 10 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2 plus 10 equals 30 units high by 25 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2 plus 25 equals 60 units wide. So the flag is indeed twice as wide as it is high. And also we have specifications for the colours here. If we scroll down, we can see these specifications using the Pantone system, the CMYK system, and the RGB system. What we'll do in this case is we'll just use the RGB system to assign our colours to the flag. But let's get going. Let's move over to Inkscape, and we will go to Document Properties, and we will go to the Page tab, and we will change the width of our canvas to 300 millimetres. We've got it set on millimetres by 150 millimetres. Okay, and that gives us our 1:2 layout. And then we will change the background colour to a light cyan, because I want to use a background colour that's other than white, because we'll be drawing some white elements and it's easy to get them lost if we have a white background. And the only other thing I want to do on the page layout is to turn off the Show Border Shadow option, so that now we have a border which is just made of simple lines. Then we will go to the grid section, create a new grid, and we want to change our units to millimetres again, so that we're consistent with what we did in the page layout. And we will have a grid spacing of 5 by 5. Okay, so that means we'll have a grid point every 5 millimetres. And we will also have major grid lines every 5 grid points. So what that means is, if we have a look at it here, 5 divided into 150 equals 30. So we have 30 grid points going up and down, and 60 grid points going left and right. So our grid system is equal to that of the Union Jack. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to draw the background square to the Union Jack. So we'll just choose a blue colour, even though it's not really the right colour blue yet. And we'll draw a square starting in the top left corner, right down to the bottom right corner. And one thing I just forgot to check, we go back to our snap to document properties and we check our snap setting to check that snap to grid actually is selected. So where we have snap to grid, you need to have always snap selected. So, and it is, so if we zoom in, we'll check that that is actually snapped to those grid points. And it has. You see how the edges of the square line up with the grid lines perfectly, because we have snap to grid turned on. Okay. So what we need to do now is change that blue colour to the blue of the Union Jack, the actual blue of the Union Jack. So we'll go back to the Wikipedia article and we'll get the RGB red, green and blue values for that square. And it has a red value of 1, a green value of 33, and a blue value of 105. So we'll change that here in the. So we make sure we have the fill. We're in the fill and stroke window of Inkscape. We make sure we have fill selected. Okay, have a solid color selected, and down where we have red, green, we have RGB color selected, and where we have red, green and blue, for the red version, for the red we put 1, the green we put 33, and for the blue we put 105. And that gives us the dark blue of the Union Jack. So let's go back now, and we see the next part we need to draw is we need to draw the white cross. So, and that white cross, as we can see, is equal to 2 plus 6 plus 2 equals 10, which is 1/3 of the height of the whole flag. So it's very fortunate we can use these major grid lines here to guide us. So we just select white colour, and using the grid lines we draw that rectangle 1/3 of the whole height. We can see how it snaps to grid. There are actually two ways of doing this. Rather than doing that, what we could have done, if we just press Ctrl Z there, what we could have done is just drawn our white circle anywhere, and then using the transform properties up at the top here, we can select the direct selection tool first. We can select an X location. With the rectangle selected, we select an X location of 0. It puts us right to the left side of the flag. A height, a Y value of 50, which is a height at 1/3 the height of the flag. We put a height value of 50, and we put a width value of 300, and that also creates the exact white bar that we need. So now to make the other arm of that white cross, we select that white rectangle, we press Ctrl C to copy it, then we press Ctrl Alt V to paste it in place. So now we've got another white rectangle pasted on top of the original white rectangle. Then we use the rotation button up here. Here's a rotation button to rotate 90 degrees clockwise. We just click that. And then we go to our height option again, and we enter 150. And then we put a Y value of 0. This is all with that rectangle selected, of course. And it puts that rectangle exactly in the right place we want it. All right, great. So now the next thing to do is to do the red St. George cross in the middle of the white cross. So as we can see, that red St. George cross, its arms are 6 units high, 6 grid points high. So this time we might just do it using the mouse. We could do it just using the transform properties again, but this time we'll use the mouse and the grid and the snap to grid property, and we will draw a red square starting 2 grid points below where the white cross begins and stopping 2 above where it finishes. Okay, and we're snap to grid, so we're right flush with the left side of the flag, and we can change the width to 300, and what we need to do though, of course, is change it to the right shade of red. So let's go back to our color specifications, and the red of the cross, the red of the flag is 216 and 46 in RGB parameters. So 216.46, go back, put in the RGB values here, 216.46. And there you can see we now have the exact red which the flag is supposed to be. So now we can just repeat the process for doing repeat the earlier process we did for the white cross to get the red cross, to get the other arm of the red cross. So with that red rectangle selected, we press Ctrl C, then Ctrl Alt V to place in place, then use the rotation tool to rotate 90 degrees, then put a height value of 150 in, and a Y value of 0. And there we go. We have finished that front cross. the flag is half done already. So now all that's left now is to do this St. Patrick's cross in the background. And that's going to be a little bit trickier because I guess if you were drawing this flag by hand, what you would do is you'd draw lines from one corner to the other, and you'd use a ruler maybe to space out the lines. But this is not so easy to do in a graphics program like Inkscape, because you would have to get it, you would have to rotate a bar and get it to snap to a side that's rotated, that's at that specific angle. But I'll show you how we can get around that problem. What we're going to do, first of all, we know that it's 6 units high, this arm of this cross, this diagonal cross. So we will just go in here and we will choose white, and we will draw a bar that is 6 units high, and it just snaps to grid. And then we'll draw another square, another rectangle, right in the, that's coming down 1 grid point and stopping 3 grid points above the bottom to give us a width of 2 grid points. And then using the dropper tool, we will just select that red. So now we have 1, 2, 3, just the right dimensions of that background St. Patrick's cross. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to group those, so right click and group, and I'm going to change the width of that to 150. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Object, going to go to Transform, and actually we already have the Transform window here. Then we're going to go to the Rotate tab, and I'm going to put in the angle 26.565. And if you're wondering, and we apply that, and that's given us exactly the rotation which we need to create this diagonal cross. And if you're wondering where I got that angle from, it's just done through simple trigonometry. If you look at what we've done is we've rotated that object through this angle here, the angle which is subtended by a triangle which has one side, a right-angled triangle which has one side half the length of the other side. And so to find that angle, you just take the inverse trigonometric tangent of 1 over 2, which is 0.5. And you can find those inverse trigonometric functions just using, for example, the Windows calculator in scientific mode. But if you're worried, if you don't like maths, or if it scares you, or if trigonometry scares you, don't worry about any of that. Just remember that you have to rotate this object through an angle of 26.565 degrees. And then, once we've got that object, we just use the direct selection tool. We drag that object up to the top right blue corner. And what we need to do is we need to get, you see where the red meets the white here in the middle of the right hand of the object? We just need to get that to snap to the top right blue corner. And it will, once we see that crosshairs, it's snapped to that corner because we have snap to grid selected. And now that object is in exactly the right place for the flag. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V to make a copy of that object. I'm going to rotate it through 90 degrees using our rotation tool up here. Oh, whoops. No, sorry, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to flip it. Yeah, flip vertical, flip horizontal, right? And then we can bring that object down here and match it up to the bottom right corner in a similar way we did with the top one. When it snaps to grid and we get that crosshairs, then it's good. Then Control-C, Control-V again, and this one we will rotate through an angle of 180 degrees. And we will move this to the top left corner of the flag. Control-CV again. Flip this one horizontal again, and we will align this with the bottom left corner. So there we go. And as you can see, these red lines, which are all offset in the white bars, they follow a kind of pattern, a kind of anti-clockwise pattern around the flag, and we've got to make sure they are going that way. With the top left element has its red line below rather than on top, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Just check it with the original flag to make sure that the order is right, and you can see that it is. Alright, so what we can do now is we can select each group, and then we press Control down to move it below all the other elements of the flag. Oops. If you go too far, you just press page up. Yeah, sorry, I'm using page down to move them down. So select another group, press page down, and there we go. We have a group, page down. Page down just moves an object behind another one. And this one again, page down, page down, page down. And there, the flag is very nearly complete now. The only thing that's left that's still a bit problematic is we've got these sticky out bits, as you might call them, on the four corners. So to get rid of those, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to draw another rectangle, choose another colour, and we're going to draw a rectangle until it snaps to the outside border of the flag. Then that's selected, and then we press Shift, and before we do that, what we have to do is we have to select these four objects, these four diagonal objects. Right click and go Ungroup. I have to do that with all four of them. Ungroup, Group, Ungroup. Alright. So now we select that purple square there, and then we select, say, either the white or the red, it doesn't matter. And then we go Object, and Path, and then we go Difference. And the shortcut for that is Control minus. Difference, we'll subtract that pink rectangle from the white shape and leave it flush with the top of the flag. And then, to get the red part out of the way, we just do the same thing again. Draw another rectangle. It snaps. That's already selected. Then we press Shift to select the red, and then Control minus to subtract the rectangle, and then we do the same with the left-hand white bit as well. Shift, Control minus. And so now we've got one perfect corner of the flag. And so we have to do the same with all three other corners, but I'm going to skip ahead in the video now because I don't want to bore all you guys by having to watch me do the same thing for all three other corners. And so there we have it. Now our flag is complete. If you look at each of the four corners, you can see that the white and red bars perfectly meet the corners of the flag, which is how they should be. And it looks like it's just one white bar going from one corner to the other in a straight line. That's the magic of mathematics for you there. Never let anyone tell you that mathematics is useless. Maths is extremely useful. Alright, and there we have our flag. And we just check with the Wikipedia version to make sure it is correct. And it looks like it is indeed. Yes. So that is how you do the Union Jack flag in Inkscape. Inkscape is a wonderful program. If you haven't checked out my introductory tutorial to Inkscape, I encourage you to do so. I haven't actually made that tutorial yet. I'm planning on it being the next tutorial I do, which will be just a general introduction to Inkscape. And so I very much encourage you to watch that one as well, because that one's going to be a lot of fun. Inkscape is an absolutely wonderful program, and this is a really fun way to get the hang of using all the vital tools in it. Alright, so that's another video done. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe or leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for joining us. See you again soon. Bye bye.